Welcome aboard TED Talks Cruises, the podcast where wanderlust meets wisdom. Join our two hosts on a cruising adventure full of laughter, learning, and luxury. Ken Conan is a cruise rookie. He's wide-eyed, full of questions, and maybe still figuring out which end is aft. Ted Blank is a seasoned cruise expert who's been there, done that, and he even has a preferred deck chair. Each week, Ted and Ken dive into the world of cruising, from picking the right itinerary to insider tips, their personal insights, and behind-the-scenes secrets. Whether you're planning your first cruise or you're a platinum tier cruiser looking for fresh perspectives, TED Talks Cruises brings relatable stories, helpful advice, and plenty of good vibes. So get ready to laugh, learn, and set sail. No passport required.
Hey, it's Ken Conan with TED Talks Cruises. I've got my expert in the house, as always, Mr. Ted Blank. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. We missed you.
I know.
You were down south.
I was down south. I was, yeah.
I can't wait to hear about this trip. So I will be honest, I got a couple pictures from you along the way, which I appreciate you sharing. That was super fun to vicariously live through a couple moments. But I know there's a whole bunch more that happened on this trip. Would you want to share that one today with us? I'd love to hear more about it.
Absolutely. So I went to Colombia in South America.
Wow.
And I went on a river cruise, on a brand new river cruise with AmaWaterways.
Okay.
And they started doing river cruises in Colombia in May of this year.
Oh my gosh.
So brand
this is a couple months
brand
old.
new product.
Wow.
Turns out that the last passenger ships to sail on a river in Colombia were in the 1950s.
You're kidding
Yep.
me.
So this is a whole new destination, whole new way of travel, and it was just absolutely amazing. Really knocked my socks off, surprised me in so many good ways.
Yeah.
And it was a really neat trip. Certainly, if folks have traveled on a river cruise before in Europe, or maybe Egypt, or Cambodia, Vietnam, on the Mekong River, even Africa or India, definitely put this on your list.
Really?
Yeah.
So where do you start off on a cruise like this? You fly into...
Well, you start off on a cruise like this getting a lot of questions from people about Colombia, including my mother. And she kind of has this way of saying, are you sure it's a good place to go?
I would have the same question, Ted. I'm not your mom.
Very
but I would
common
be
question.
asking.
Very common question, yeah. So, I think a lot of us think of Colombia through the lens of the cocaine wars.
Yeah.
And remember the drug lord Pablo Escobar.
For sure.
Back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And so the good news is it's now the 2020s.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of water under the bridge, if you will. And so the narco war has really ended.
Okay.
And Colombia is a pretty stable, it's a democratic country.
Huh.
They have changes of power between political parties, and it seems to go okay.
Yeah.
And, it's very much a developing country.
Fine.
So the cities can be very modern. Really, safe from there's not crime, there aren't drug shootouts, there's nothing at all like that.
Yeah.
And we were in an area where not a lot of tourists go. We really got off the beaten path. So we had a chance to see both some big cities and really small town life in Colombia. And everybody's super friendly. They're very, very welcoming of Americans. They love the fact that they're seeing kind of sustainable tourism develop along this beautiful river.
Yeah.
Which, like a lot of rivers, is kind of an underutilized natural resource from a tourism perspective. So it was a great place to go, very modern. They have good coffee there.
Oh my gosh,
I always joke that
imagine.
the most famous Colombian, of course, is Mr. Juan Valdez.
Yeah.
So all the coffee shops in Colombia are Juan Valdez branded coffee shops.
No way. For you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 And it's a modern country. So they have, grocery stores. And we went to a shopping center that has an H&M and a Gap. So,
really?
This is not some backwater poverty-stricken country by any means. So I think the misconceptions people have about Colombia from the 1980s, it's time to move on. And the world has moved on, and it's really, really neat to see AmaWaterways in particular develop this amazing destination.
That's awesome. That's a great point. You talk about the 80s. That's 45 years ago now. Which is
don't remind me.
To say.
I
know. Both you and I are 80s kids.
Yeah, we are.
Right?
Yeah,
we're 80s kids.
Yeah, but think about it. Ireland was racked by civil war.
Yeah.
At the time, Yugoslavia was falling apart. Yeah. The Berlin Wall hadn't fallen. So there's a lot that's happened since then. And so Colombia is really a place to definitely put on your list And some of the ports along the Caribbean Sea, including one of the cities we visited, Cartagena, are actually big cruise destinations.
Oh, really?
So you maybe, if you're taking a Panama Canal cruise or a cruise through the Southern Caribbean, you may very well end up having the opportunity to visit Cartagena.
Okay.
And you don't want to miss it.
Okay.
Beautiful city, really interesting. But we'll talk about that.
Interesting.
As well.
So where do you do a pre-cruise stay on this one? Where do you start your journey? How's that go?
Yeah, so they do have a pre and a post-cruise program.
Okay.
We didn't have time to do that this time.
Okay.
But the pre or post-cruise, it will start in Medellin.
Medellin,
in Colombia,
yes.
another very famous city. But it happens to be kind of up in the Andes Mountains.
Okay.
And Medellin is kind of the heart of coffee country. And so that's where a lot of the coffee in Colombia is grown. But it's also an interesting historic colonial city. So that's one option. The other option is Panama City.
Oh.
And so you would fly from Panama City to Cartagena to start the cruise.
Okay.
Depending on how you want to go. And so you have a chance to see both the jungle in Panama. You take sort of a Panama Canal cruise on a tour boat.
Oh.
Excuse me, you have a chance to go visit the visitor center. Panama City is a beautiful city. It has some gorgeous parks along the ocean.
Yeah.
If you like ships, my God, it's like wallpapered with ships because all the ships are waiting to go through the Panama Canal and they can't go through fast enough. And so there are ships anchored out all over the place. And so it's very, very interesting place. So those are the bookends to the cruise.
Okay.
And the cruise itself, it's kind of shaped like a Y. And so one tip of the Y is the city of Cartagena. The other tip is the city of Barranquilla.
Okay.
And then basically, depending on where you start, they come together at a junction between the river and a canal and head a little ways south to a town called Mompox.
Okay.
Which is where the cruise turns around and then goes back. So if you start in Cartagena, you end in Barranquilla.
Gotcha.
And vice versa.
Gotcha.
And little trivia for you, Ken.
Ooh, I love trivia.
Do you know which famous singer was born in Barranquilla, Colombia?
So I'm not very good with the trivia when it comes to singers.
Wait,
I'm going to be real honest with you. I do love trivia, but I'm more of a numbers guy. And so
Shakira.
Shakira.
And the Colombians, and that's actually a good name to kind of put in your head because the Colombians are big dancers. They love to dance. And Barranquilla has one of the largest Mardi Gras type carnivals in the world.
Wow.
And so that's where Shakira learned to do those movements that I think if you or I tried, we'd end up probably in the hospital or at the chiropractor.
We'd be like, oh, my back.
Oh, my back. Yeah. But that is one kind of element of the cruise that reoccurs, is an opportunity to see the traditional dances.
Fun.
Now, again, we always have to go back to a time when people didn't travel very much. And so every village kind of has its own style of dance and related to maybe their own history, maybe something about where they are. And it's dance to tell a story. And so in Barranquilla, when the cruise started, we had a chance to actually have like a little Mardi Gras celebration at the ship. And so they brought in some dancers who gave kind of a Mardi Gras dance demonstration, and then all the passengers got to participate, and we had some local Colombian cuisine and sort of a little welcome aboard reception. So we started off right away with the dancing portion of the cruise.
How fun. Now I have to ask, did you get out and kind of shake a little bit?
Well, I was recording things for posterity, so I was kind of standing there and moving, but many people were dancing.
I love it. I love it.
And the ship was right there, so it's part of kind of the new.
Fun.
All the infrastructure is new, and Ama has built it all. And so Barranquilla has their dock, but it also has actually a performance stage where this is done. So they've really built an excellent program with the infrastructure to support it, which I'm sure was a huge challenge.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of, you mentioned they do have like a large Mardi Gras celebration. Is there a time of the year where if you were on the cruise, you could also take part in that?
Mardi Gras.
Okay, so it's the same Mardi Gras dates that we would have. Okay, so no different there. Got it.
Yep.
Fun. That'd be extra fun to go.
Yeah. Oh, it would be. It would be. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so you spend the night in Barranquilla, and then you head off on the cruise kind of the next morning.
That's great. And what was your first impression when you boarded the ship? What was your first impression? I know I've been on an Ama one time on the Rhine River, so I have my first impression. You have been many more places, many more ships. First impression, first takes.
So you would definitely, if you've been on a river cruise before, certainly if you've been on an AmaWaterways river cruise, you would feel the familiarity.
Okay.
There's the same kind of sense of decor, sense of place that they have, only done in a way that works in a tropical setting. So the first thing is there's no carpet, because carpet will just get moldy. So, everything has wood floor and stuff like that. The ship is very small. It only carries 60 passengers.
Oh, my goodness.
And the typical river cruise ships carry about 150.
Wow.
So it's quite a bit smaller.
It's about a third of the size.
About a third of the size. Wow. Yeah, it's a little squatter and a little taller.
Okay.
And it has an outdoor pool. It has a lounge. It has a dining room. Same kind of public spaces.
Yeah.
Ama is very well known for their chef's table, which is that special multi-course tasting menu that you have the opportunity to enjoy. Yeah. Well, they do it outdoors in Colombia underneath the awnings on the deck. So a little difference there. You go into the staterooms, they seem very familiar. They have that twin balcony configuration. Okay. So there's a French window and then there's an outdoor balcony. Now it's 100 degrees. So you probably aren't going to open the French window very often, but you do have the balcony. You can go out and sit and enjoy. Nice, stateroom, nice bathroom, compact, plenty of storage space, but very typical river cruise ship feel.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know you were in Colombia, and the pillows have like Colombian tropical birds instead of, European patterns and stuff. But if you didn't realize you're in Colombia, you could be on a river cruise ship in Europe from the perspective of the look and feel of the ship. Now, the crew is all local. Okay. Everyone is Colombian. And I think that was one of the challenges they had. They had to find people who not only spoke English, but also excelled in hospitality. Yeah. And so they had to recruit their staff. They had to train them. They had to, come up with menus. And one of the neat things they do is they have kind of Colombian dishes and also American dishes. So if you want a hamburger, you can have a hamburger. If you want deep fried plantains with this as a side dish, you can have that. Wow. A lot of seafood. So typical AmaWaterways mix of the local and the international cuisine. The staff, amazing that you can train folks in Cambodia and Egypt and Colombia and Holland to deliver the same level of service. And you really did feel like you were part of that AmaWaterways family that they talk about. Yeah. Now, one of the unique things is that most people in Colombia don't speak English. And especially in a lot of the smaller towns we went to, the people there don't really speak English. And they may even have local tour guides because there's local tourism. Colombians go visit places in Colombia, but the tour guides may not speak English. And so they have 3 river guides who travel with the ship. Wow. And they do some of the programs, but they also will translate whenever you're doing a tour. You might be in a church and someone's explaining something in Spanish. They translate that for you. So they're a real key part of the experience. Wow. And then there's a cruise manager, just like on a regular AmaWaterways cruise. And ours apparently is a celebrity. Oh. He was the world champion surfer from Colombia. No. So, yes. So we had the world champion Colombian surfer as our cruise manager. So,
pretty cool.
You could catch him on an unguarded moment standing there just, kind of trying to find a wave to imagine in the river. But, of course, there aren't any waves there. And then there's a nice outdoor swimming pool, plenty of sun deck space. So really beautiful ship. It still has the new ship sense smell to it a little bit, but very, very nice. First class all the way. And such a nice platform to discover the river because you spend some time doing scenic cruising. Yeah. And that's a neat thing. One of the other things they've done is they've built some specific kind of motorboat tenders, for lack of a better word. Okay. And they're 15 to 20 passenger little motorboats that are kept stored along the route. Okay. And when you get to certain places, the motorboat will come out, you'll board the motorboat, and you'll go off for like a boat ride tour. Really? So in some places you'll get off and you'll go ashore and you'll walk around, and usually the ship docks at a brand new dock. But other times you'll travel by these little boats. Huh. And so one morning we got up at 5 a.m. to go bird watching. Wow. Because the birds are the most active at sunset and sunrise. Okay. And so we got up at 5 a.m, hopped on this boat, and went for about 2.5 hours through kind of the backwater channels of the river and saw, oh my God, so many birds. Yeah. I mean, birds everywhere. And egrets and everything. So if you're into birding, definitely a place to go. But they're really well designed. And it's interesting because I think it's easier, if you had a little bit of a mobility issue, it would be much easier to get onto one of these tenders than it would be on a regular cruise ship. Really? Yep. Now, speaking of mobility issues, there is no elevator on the ship. Okay. So that's something to be aware of. Okay. And there are some places where there's really no problem with accessibility, but keep in mind this is a third world country, and so there are places where accessibility isn't going to be great.
Yeah. And I always feel like this is where your team comes into play with like, let's understand who's on your journey with you. Let's talk through accessibility issues and let's make sure we're getting everything kind of out there before we travel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. What other kind of boat excursions besides the bird watching, which sounds really fun? And it's funny. I recently was down in Florida. Nothing as cool as where you went, but I was in the Keys.
And we kind of do the same thing. You go through the little swampy.
The mangroves. And
we
went to look at birds. And I don't know if I'm just maturing in what I like to look at, but I really had a good time. And it was fun having and I would guess that you had something similar. We had somebody on board who knew every bird that we saw, could point them out way before I saw them in most cases, and would just tell you a little bit about each one and why they were cool or how they fit into the ecosystem.
Exactly. And those were the river guides.
Yeah.
So these are they're younger gentlemen who are very, very well trained. They know a lot, and they're really experts in that. And so that was part of the experience.
That's fun.
We also had a chance just to kind of go. So we were there during the rainy season, during the wet season, although it didn't actually rain when we were there, but the river water was high, a little higher than normal, so it can kind of fluctuate. There are no locks and dams on this part of the river. In fact, I don't think there are any on the river at all. But we went back into kind of what I would describe as a slough. Like up here, we talk about the sloughs in the Mississippi, but there are farm fields in that where people grow corn, they raise cattle, and so we went through by boat to see these little houses on stilts and stuff, and they're off the grid, but they'll have solar panels, so that's how they get their electricity. And they have like a little co-op school bus boat that goes and picks the kids up and takes them to school every day. So that's sort of the one-room schoolhouse like we had 100 years ago. So we got a chance to really go and see kind of how the Colombian agricultural system in this river delta works. And of course, it's so fertile because of all the floods and stuff like that. So we got a chance to do that. We also had a chance to go to a little town where we took the excursion boats up a little ways away from the river and then had a chance to walk back to town, kind of again through like the agricultural fields. And that was one of the neatest experiences because school had just gotten out.
Oh my gosh.
And all the kids wanted to talk to the Americans. Now, a little problem. I don't speak much Spanish.
Sure.
They didn't speak any English.
Yep.
But they would just kind of come and they'd hold your hand and they'd start talking to you and try to tell you about their lives and stuff. And fortunately, there was one lady who did speak some Spanish, so she kind of helped translate.
Oh my.
So we had a chance to chat with a little boy named Luis,
who
was the goalie of the soccer team. And he was, very excited because they were going to play, whatever their arch rival was this weekend.
How fun.
And I did know how to ask him, where is your house? Donde está su casa? So then he told me, and then he asked me where my house was, and of course I didn't. So I found a picture. I thought I'd impress him. I found a picture of my house with the snow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, here's the snow. Now keep in mind, we're in Colombia, walking past cattle farms that are off the grid in a small town where the livelihood is fishing and things like that. And I asked him if he'd ever seen snow. And he's like, oh, yeah, when we went to Bogota last year, we saw snow. So I'm like, well, there you go. But that's one of the things you do as kind of an activity is sort of cultural demonstrations. Yeah. So we had a chance to see fishermen. We actually had a chance to meet fishermen out on the water, and they would show us what they caught. They'd reach in the boat and show us what they caught. And they kind of tried to explain how they were throwing their nets. And then we got to meet somebody who made the fish nets, and we actually got to cast the fish nets.
Really?
We got to roll tobacco.
Oh my gosh!
Probably not real good quality tobacco. Maybe we'll just say it's pretty stinky. But we visited some small towns. Some of them are very beautiful Spanish colonial towns. The one I mentioned, Mompox, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Wow.
So it's got some.
It's a big deal.
It's got some legacy to it. Some beautiful churches, historic homes, a lot of cultural demonstrations, dancing, things like that, and then just a chance to walk around a little bit. And the town has a boardwalk along the river with little cafes and pizza restaurants and places you can go. So it's very nice.
Yeah.
Parts of it are very poor. You can tell that some of the farming is kind of almost subsistence farming, but not gripping poverty or anything like that. And then the towns are generally pretty pleasant. Most people drive motorcycles, not cars.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you a sense of what the income level is like.
Yeah.
And then we went to Cartagena at the end of the cruise, which is this big walled Spanish colonial city. It was like Fortress Spain when, the Spanish were ruling and extracting all of the gold and everything from South America. And what a beautiful city. Beautiful churches, old historic homes, buildings, lovely little public squares. I mean, the streets and the sidewalks were so clean. Like, we could actually learn something from the Colombians in terms of how to keep your streets clean.
I was
really, really very impressed. We saw an old Spanish fortress, very, very diverse experiences on the cruise.
That's awesome. We wouldn't do ourselves any justice if we didn't talk about food a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's get into the important stuff here.
So that's always one of my favorite parts of AmaWaterways is the excellent food.
Yeah.
And so breakfast and lunch are served kind of combination buffet / menu style.
Okay.
So they have some buffet items, and then you can order items off the menu. So eggs, pancakes, things like that. The fresh fruit. That probably is going to be my abiding memory of Colombia. And we were in that little town of Mompox, and we were coming back from our tour, and there was a boat just heaped with pineapples. And you could smell the fresh pineapple. And so it turned out, according to the chef on the ship, who was kind of a very, very chatty gentleman, and he would explain what we were eating, and he loved to just talk to the passengers.
Yeah.
They make the best pineapples in the world, he said. And so we had fresh pineapple. And, of course, fresh pineapple is so different than what we get here at the grocery store. But mangoes and passion fruit and, dragon fruits and oranges and grapefruits but super bananas, plantains, super fresh. So anywhere you went, there was fresh fruit everywhere.
Amazing.
So that was maybe my abiding memory of, like, breakfast and lunch. For lunch, they would have a salad bar and kind of light, potato salad type appetizers. And then, again, there was a menu you could order from.
Oh, okay.
And it was always kind of tough because you're kind of like, well, I had a nice big breakfast. I want to have a light lunch, but everything at lunch was so good. And they might have a sandwich, some seafood, some kind of a vegetarian pasta, soup, desserts, everything across the board. They had local ice cream, so a lot of different flavors, like a lot of mango flavored ice cream and fruit flavored ice cream that's made locally with fresh fruit. And then dinner is, a multi-course meal with an appetizer, salad, soup, dinner, dessert, and a lot of choices. A lot of Colombian dishes. So, like, stews, fish-based dishes. They eat a fair amount of beef there.
Really?
But, like, for example, one night we had short ribs, and they had a barbecue sauce on it, but the barbecue sauce was made with sugar cane. So it was kind of a very, very sweet, like much sweeter barbecue sauce than we would normally have.
Yeah.
Side dishes, instead of mashed potatoes, you might actually have like mashed plantains or something like that. You could always get these little deep fried plantains, and I can't remember the name of them, but they're a very, very traditional Colombian dish where they take a piece of plantain, put it in the frying pan, smash it with a spoon, and deep fry it. And they're kind of like a sweet cookie potato chip, kind of a combination of the two. And then they would have, anytime you came back from the excursions, you're maybe a little hot and sweaty, they would have some type of a local drink, like a local fruit juice or something like that. Coconut milkshakes. Just a lot of variety. And just like on all the other AmaWaterways cruises, beer and wine is included with lunch and dinner. And then they have the sip and sail every evening where they have kind of the special bar menu that you can enjoy. And they would always have a special cocktail of the day. And like it might be like a martini, but instead of a regular martini, it was like a tamarind martini or something like that. So they really did try to bring that local flavor on board.
Yeah.
You had no doubt you were in Colombia, but you were in a clean, safely prepared gourmet restaurant as you traveled.
That's awesome.
Now, a lot of people got off the ship and dined on shore in some of the places we went, or we'd have time to stop for lunch. And there were a lot of street vendors. I mean, I would maybe be a little leery of that, but you could go into a restaurant and order food, and many people did that, and seemed to really, really enjoy it. Cartagena in particular has a lot of kind of gourmet restaurants that people would go out in the evening and enjoy.
Wow, that sounds outstanding. Was the beef? Was it similar to American beef? You mentioned short ribs, but there wasn't any
steaks.
difference.
No, they had steaks and stuff. Yeah. That's like awesome. Things you probably wouldn't get. You wouldn't have gotten like spaghetti.
Yeah,
they wouldn't.
For sure.
But they had a lot of pasta type dishes, but very different sauces than Italian type food.
And then the beer and wine, is it Colombian type beer?
The beer is
and wine
Colombian.
as well?
The wine was actually from Chile.
Oh, okay.
So, you're in South America. I don't think they make much wine in Colombia.
Right.
It's probably too hot, but they have local beer.
Okay.
So it was local Colombian beer.
And was it good?
It was cold.
It was cold. That's all
that's all that matters when it's hot. And it is a hot place.
Yeah.
We were there in November when it was in the 90s.
Okay.
In the summer, it can be well over 100. And this cruise operates year round.
Got it.
So twice a week, year round. But it's going to be a warm place.
Yeah.
So kind of the first thing that was in my head was, well, hey, if I had a choice between spending a week at a resort in Mexico or doing this for a week, I would so do this.
Yeah.
Because it's so interesting. But you got a chance to, sit by the pool, get a little sun, relax in the swimming pool. It wasn't like a go pace. It was a nice blend of activity, relaxation time, definitely a lot of enrichment activities on board the ship, lectures and opportunities to try some local crafts. And so I really came away feeling like I got a good flavor of what Colombia is like. And I would absolutely go back and do it again.
That's awesome.
It was neat.
That's awesome. Well, sounds another one probably hitting the bucket list for me. I love when you share these stories. It was coming into this.
It was a great opportunity. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah, I had a different mindset coming into this podcast today. I was thinking I was gonna. I don't know what I was gonna hear from, but I was like, I don't. Anyway, it sounds like a great.
I think
time.
a lot. It is a place that a lot of people have misconceptions. About.
Yeah.
And the good thing about travel is it can kind of cure many of those prejudices that people have.
Agree.
And if you have done a river cruise in Europe, this is a great way to dip your toe into the more exotic river cruises.
Yeah.
It's close to home. It's the same time zone. It's Eastern Standard Time. So you don't have to fly to Vietnam and have a 12-hour time zone change. So that's actually a thing that just makes it kind of easy to adapt to the destination. But, if you've done those European river cruises and you want to dip your toes in the exotic world of exotic river cruising, I think this is a great place to start. If you've done Egypt, if you've done the Mekong, if you've maybe done the Ganges in India or the Chobe in South Africa, Botswana, I would definitely not miss this.
Okay.
And, I would certainly be happy to answer questions for folks because it is it's an exotic destination. It isn't France. And so there are more questions that people have, and I would certainly be happy to answer those for folks as well.
I love that. What is the best way to get a hold of you, your team, if we had questions out there?
Yeah, well, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, TED Talks Cruises, or visit tedblanktravel.com, and you can reach out, find our contact info, or schedule an appointment with me.
Yep, and as always, all that info will be below this video on YouTube. Again, like and subscribe below. Again, all the contact info will be listed below. This is Ken Conan and Mr. Ted Blank on TED Talks Cruises. Thanks for joining us again this week. We'll be back next week for another one. Appreciate it.